Youth unemployment has soared to its highest level since the pandemic, with many worrying that it will hamper economic growth. Now, less than 5% of all working age adults are unemployed, but almost 15% of adults aged between 18 and 24 are jobless. It's a striking difference. Charlie, so how do we solve this? Do we ask employers to prioritise the younger employee?
I think you can, yes. I mean, I think there always needs to be more education and training and apprenticeships for young people. I think, you know, there isn't a one-size-fits-all for too long. I think too many people went to university when they could have done an apprenticeship or any kind of vocational education which is better suited to give them the skills and the qualifications to go on and get a job. Because you're right, there are too many people, too many young people between 18 and 24 that are jobless, that are struggling. And I think if there are opportunities to get a job, and if you're an employer, I think, you know, you are probably going to be slightly stronger favoured to support the younger person and to help them to get onto the jobs ladder, to train them and mould them in the way that you want, which might be more difficult for an older person.
So you think that there's a lack of opportunities out there for young people? There's plenty of jobs that aren't being taken up.
I mean, look, you know, spreading opportunity is one of the things that Levelling Up was supposed to do, right? And, you know, it's a decade's worth of a project, and it's now up to the Labour government to try and deliver those opportunities. So I think it is about opportunities, but not just in the south and the southeast. You know, making sure that people don't feel the need to come down to expensive London or expensive to the expensive southeast.
You should say expensive, unaffordable.
Unaffordable,
I'd say,
yes,
for most people.
You should be able to stay local and go far with having opportunities in your local area.
Yeah. Paula, what do you think? Why do you think that? What is the reason for such high unemployment amongst young people?
So actually, I'm not seeing this figure as a negative. This is actually a positive for me, because what this is telling me is that as a society, our young are saying that they want to study more. Because this figure, remember, is only about those who are choosing not to go into employment. So what else are they doing? Well, we know that the figures are high in relation to studying. We know that some of our young, sadly, have to become full-time carers. We also know, sadly, that a lot of our young are struggling with their mental health and are not being able to access the mental care that they need. So for me, this is not necessarily a negative figure. It highlights actually that they want to study, and that two things that we need to address in terms of accessibility to mental health care and the fact that they may be young carers. Okay. So what do we do with this? Well, we say to ourselves, where are the jobs? And we know that there's been a reduction in hospitality employing. We know that there's been a reduction in retail employing. Well, that's where we went for our jobs, right? When we were 18, 19, 20, we would go to college, we would go to university, and we would revel in our Saturday jobs or our late Thursday night jobs. They don't exist anymore. So the radical thing that we need to think about is, are we saying that we need to shift our focus on saying to the young people, don't worry about education, actually get out to work, education will always be there, don't panic about having to get that degree at 22 or 23. We need you in the workforce, so get on out there.
When you initially said, I think a lot of these young people are choosing academics and education, I thought, who goes to university and doesn't have to work all the way through university? That's a bit of a luxury nowadays, if that's what's happening. But if there isn't any jobs to have, then maybe that is the problem. Is that the problem you're facing? Stay with us, because after the break, we'll be finding out what you think. Get those calls coming in now. But first, we're taking your calls on whether we should prioritise jobs for under-25s in order to tackle youth unemployment. 0207 862 2222 is the number to give us a ring. We're going to go straight to the phones then and speak to Tim from Merseyside. Tim, what's your view on this?
Well, I would say what's so good in particular about under-25s? See, a lot of employers will want to employ people who have got experience and wisdom and knowledge of their job they're going to do. So why tell employers that they can't employ them and they must employ less experienced people instead?
Well, is it not fair to say that younger employees would be cheaper because you wouldn't have to pay them as much? They may be more enthusiastic. And as Charlie says, you'd be able to mould them in your own image. You'd be able to make them the kind of worker that you need them to be.
Mould them? That sounds a bit sinister.
It does sound sinister, but take away the sinister element to it. But you train them in a way that is appropriate for your workplace.
Well, no, if they've already got the experience and the knowledge to fulfil a job that you're advertising for, then why should you be obliged to reject over 25s in favour of under 25s? I don't think that's what employers should be obliged to do.
Charlie, try and sell it for me.
Well, I think I don't think there's anything wrong with the word moulding anyway, Tim. And that might just be that conversation that we're having. Might be the reason why I'm more likely to employ a younger person than someone who might be significantly or slightly older. I don't know how old you are, Tim, but if we're going to have that kind of debate in the office, you might as well just employ someone that's more likely to turn up and shut up and do their job. I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? Making sure that if you give an opportunity to a young person, they come in, they work hard, they graft, they're happy to learn, they want to suck all of the wisdom. Suck might be a bit of a...
Again, another sinister word there, Charlie. Now you're questioning everything you're saying.
I know,
Please don't
exactly.
do that.
I'm under pressure. But, they will want to learn. They want to do all that they can to impress their boss, to get on, to get the promotion. I think, there is absolutely nothing wrong with hiring experience as well, if you are slightly older, but if you can bring experience. But I think if it's an entry-level role, if it's a new job or something that you want to give an opportunity to a young person, someone that might not be able or have the resources, or they've only been relying on the bank of mum and dad, perhaps if you're slightly older, you might have something to have some sort of savings or allowance to sort of keep you sort of, alive and well and going on to find another job. But for entry-level jobs and for new jobs and opportunities, I just think employers would want to put their punt in the younger.
What about looking at the bigger picture here, Tim? It will be better for the economy. We need economic growth. One way of doing that, a quick way of doing that, is increasing your labour market. And a quick way of doing that is getting people from unemployment to employment.
Well, yes, that's a very good thing there. And what Charlie has said, perhaps they do want to give opportunities to younger people. I think it's very good. But then again, don't cast aside older people because...
Tim, you're right.
Do recognise their experience and abilities.
Absolutely. And in the question, there is that sort of insinuation, and I understand that is going to be quite... I think confronting for a lot of people, but also businesses will think, absolutely not, I need my experienced members of staff. Tim, thank you very much. Charlie, I think you managed to convince him. Anyway, won him over, yes. Brought him over to the other side a little bit anyway.
I've moulded him.
Yeah.
Nigel from Cornwall, what do you think? Should businesses start to prioritise younger workers in order to increase the number of people in the labour market, maybe?
Well, just under 25s, the ones in the 30s as well. I'll tell you my own circumstances. I've worked outdoors pretty well all my life, and 3 years ago my knees went. Last year I had a half knee replacement, and my opposite knee has got to have a full knee replacement. And I've been told my left hip is going as well.
So hold on, Nigel, a half knee replacement? I've never heard of that before. What does that involve? Just the kneecap?
Well, it's sort of one side of the knee done. One side was worn worse than the other. That's the best way to describe it.
All right. Okay. So what's your view then on younger workers?
What it is, I still got to report to the job centre every 3 months. And I got a job to walk most days. I'm not joking. And they say they got to get me back into full-time work. I'm 64 years old.
Okay. But is there not anything, Nigel, that you can do? I understand if you've worked outside most of your life and that's where your skills lie, it's very difficult at your age potentially to go into a completely new field, but not completely outside of the realm. Stranger things have happened. Do you not think that there are other things that you would be able to do, Nigel, that wouldn't have you up and about on your knees all the time?
Well, I tell you, I'm not academic-minded whatsoever. I'm absolutely hopeless. And I'm in one of these positions. I know it sounds a bit daft. I sort of can't stand up very long. I can't sit down very long. You've got to be sort of moving around a little bit and resting. Put it that way. And quite honestly, in a lot of places, I would be an health and safety hazard, to be honest. I couldn't get out in an emergency, and no one would want to carry me out, I don't think, because they'd be getting themselves out first.
Nigel, someone would carry you, I promise you that. But you make a good point. If your problem with your knees meant that you could only really sit down all day, that'd be fine. You could work in a supermarket and you could work in the checkout, absolutely fine, but it's not. You need to be sort of up and about. Okay, so when it comes to employers prioritising young people, do you think that would be a good thing because it would make up for maybe you not being able to be in the workforce anymore?
Well, the thing is, people say, they want experience, but youngsters have got to learn somewhere and make a start somewhere. Mm-hmm. They've got to start somewhere and they're not getting a chance. So, but do you think it's that they're not getting a chance, or do you think young people are
prioritising their mental health, they're prioritising a work-life balance, they're prioritising education and maybe not wanting to work while they're at university because they want to fully focus on that. Do you think it might be a change in priorities for this generation?
Well, I'll tell you what, one thing I do truly believe, I think too many people go to university now, to be honest. And, a lot of them are not starting work to 30, 35-year-old anyway.
Oh, 30, 35 sounds very, very old, Nigel. I'm hoping that they're in employment before then.
I'm 34. I'm not far off.
But hopefully you've been working for a little while. You've not just started working. It would be it'd be a ripe old age to just start a career.
Well, yeah, I couldn't consider this work. It's far too much fun with you two.
True. None of us work on the panel, actually, Nigel, to be fair. But thank you very much for your call.